Hello and welcome to Hear These Words, a podcast and video series from Good Shepherd Episcopal Church. I'm Sanford Groff.
And I'm Jim Cook.
And every week on the podcast, we take a look at the readings assigned for this upcoming Sunday from the Revised Common Lectionary. And the words we hear on this week, which is proper 6a, are Genesis 18, 1 through 15, Psalm 116, verses 1, and then 10 through 17, Romans 5, 1 through 8, and Matthew 9, 35 through chapter 10, verse 8. Welcome, Father Cook.
Thank you.
Welcome to the library.
It's a busy place around here.
We keep moving to different locations. It's Vacation Bible School week, so we are displaced from our usual spot in the church.
It's a good thing.
Where they're doing music class and they're taking over the whole campus, except for this room, for another 20 minutes.
20 minutes,
and then
out we go.
We got to get out, and a new group comes in. Yes, so I've got a face for radio today as well.
You do.
I've got a little.
So they're still working on
the dermatologist hit me a little with a laser yesterday after my Mohs surgery 6 months ago.
I thought maybe Tony finally
No, he did not. No, and no tattoo or anything.
No
if you're listening to us, you're welcome. That's the best way to do it today. Anyway. We start with Matthew 9 and into the beginning of chapter 10. It's a fairly, there's some nice little lines in here, but these are the 12 disciples who Jesus called, and they're named, right? The names of the 12 are, and then Simon, also known as Peter, Andrew, James, on and on the list goes. Before that, though, we do get this kind of great line. When Jesus saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore ask the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest," which is a pretty common metaphor that Jesus likes to go back to, this agricultural idea of harvest.
Yeah, I mean, you live in an agricultural community.
Right.
You draw on those right images. I think it actually probably makes more sense to the listeners then than it does kind of a lot of us who have spent no time on farms or in the country,
Harvesting our food.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
When we walk through the grocery store, that's about as close to harvesting as I get.
Right.
Which one do I want?
Yes.
But I do think what I love about that is that he looks on compassion on those, right? And compassion is that sense of sort of feeling another person's what's going on internally, and the sense that Jesus wants us to go to sort of be his disciples as people of compassion, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, into their skin, kind of that great from To Kill a Mockingbird, Atticus tells us to get in the skin of somebody else. I think for me, that is such a great image of how it is that we be with each other as disciples of Christ. It's not telling people, it's being with people.
It's being with.
Yeah, it is.
And that deep understanding of what the other person might be going through, it requires a level of attention and I think focus that maybe in our busyness of our lives can be hard to grasp or hard to sit with.
Yep.
But I like to think of our prayers as doing just that, right?
Absolutely.
So when you say, I'll pray for you, or someone asks you to pray for them, or they're going through something, being able to at least bring that person's name to your mind and their, maybe their circumstance into your heart is a way of offering that to God, but also it's a way of focusing our own distracted attention to be with that person in their situation.
I agree with that, and it unburdens us from having to change that person in a way. I mean, it's so easy in today's world as Christians to think that we have a message. Yeah, I'm going to change you, and if you don't believe what I believe, then you're lost. It's on you. And I just think that's a misrepresentation of what Jesus wants us to do.
Right.
Just be with people and live with them and understand them and give yourself to them in that way. And then sort of see where all things go.
Right.
Right?
Right. Right. It's great.
He's not trying to change the sheep's mind.
No.
He's
No.
taking care of the sheep.
Yes. There's a right.
Right? I
Right.
think. At least as a beginning point.
Right. And I think it's there's work to be done, to go back to that agricultural metaphor. I mean, it's hard work at some level, but it's also not work that is quite as in our parlance it would be, it's not as productive, right? So it's not, oh, I've prayed for this person, so what is the result of my prayer? I mean, that's a very kind of post-industrial way of looking at the practice of prayer, is to say it should be productive in some way.
Right.
No, the end that you are striving for is simply communion with the other person, even in spirit only.
That's right. That's right.
So that is in and of itself a good thing. That is where Jesus is.
Because again, the prayer doesn't change God, it changes you and me when I pray.
Right.
I'm the one who's actually being changed.
And if there was any doubt about that, you can go to the last, kind of little line here of the reading. You received without payment, give without payment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Jesus right there in the passage gives us kind of liberation from that idea that this is transactional.
Yes.
Right.
But we turned everything. We turned everything into
transaction. No, it's
everything. It is.
It's just part of our. It's part of kind of our culture. It's part of our moment in the world.
I think it's human. I just think it's human. It wasn't any different for the folks Jesus is talking to as it is for us today.
Right.
I don't think.
Yeah.
But
good.
But I also think, just quickly, like the naming of the 12 apostles. Apostles are different than disciples.
Yes.
Apostles, the Greek words are different. Apostles, one directly sent by Jesus.
Right.
And then apostles kind of make disciples.
Right.
Right. So it's like, okay. But I think what's kind of neat is this weekend, we were just talking about this, that there's going to be a baptism at Good Shepherd. Mm-hmm. Right. And when you, in a baptism, a couple different places you ask for the person's full name. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And even though that's not in the rubrics anymore, and it's really not part of the baptismal liturgy, I still kind of, even at the baptism, when the godparent or the parent presents us with a child, you kind of say, could you please name your child again? And the full name comes at you. And I think that's just where that name gets added to that list of the disciples that are being named there, right? So there's another name added to that. To the book.
Right.
Which I think is kind of cool.
Cool.
It's kind of a neat Sunday to have a baptism just because
I've noticed you doing that for 12 years. I never knew why.
Yeah.
I always just thought it was so you don't get it wrong. That's why I do it.
Because you know me too well.
You remind me of
I hear every day, what's your name again? Like it's not helping anyway. Yeah, there's
just one last time to make sure I pronounce the name correctly.
That's right. Or we'll be an invalid baptism.
No, I like your.
But I think that's kind of cool.
I like your impetus much more than mine. So yeah. Good thing you're doing the baptism this weekend. All right, we got to keep moving. So Genesis 18, 1 through 15. This is a very for Genesis. There are a lot of famous scenes in Genesis. I think this is, especially for kind of church people, a pretty poignant scene where Abraham and Sarah now are, still waiting for their son who's been promised and has not been born. And so these three kind of visitors show up, and Abraham says, "Hey, welcome. Come. Eat, sit, relax. It's hot. Like, come into the tent." And so they come in and sit down, and they say, "Where's your wife? Where's Sarah?" And she's over in the tent. And the one says, "I will surely return to you in due season, and your wife Sarah shall have a son." This is not the first time they've heard this, right? They've been hearing this for years. I mean, it has been maybe decades, right?
Right.
And Sarah was listening at the tent entrance behind him. Now, Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in age. So Sarah laughed to herself, saying, "After I have grown old and my husband is old, shall I have the pleasure, right, of having a child?" And then one of the visitors, the Lord, says to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh? Is anything too wonderful for the Lord?" And now I will return to you, and Sarah shall have a son. But Sarah denied, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. And then he said, oh, yes, you did laugh.
It's great. It's
I kind of think it's a fun. It's fun. Just it's very human. It's a very, very human moment. Rublev is this, I think, Russian iconographer, and he does this icon of this scene of the three, and it's a very, very it's called the Rublev icon, and if you haven't seen it, you should take a look.
And you probably have seen it.
You probably
and don't
have,
know it.
Yes, you probably have
name
seen
it that way.
Right.
Yeah, it's true. It's also kind of Trinitarian.
Very Trinitarian.
Going back
I think
to a
actually,
couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
I think, did we talk about that then? Maybe.
No, we didn't. But
we could have.
We could have.
Yeah.
The three visitors are kind of God, the three persons of God.
Yeah.
In human form.
Right.
Yeah.
And the promises God makes to us, in many ways, we do kind of laugh them off. Mm-hmm. That's never going to happen, or
right.
That's not going to, I'm never going to change, or whatever. That we, in our back of our heads, we think that's an impossible thing. Mm-hmm. Do you know? I do. I think we laugh it off.
Yes.
And I always think God kind of gets the last laugh.
I do think God gets the last laugh. I also think that God is working on a different timeline than we are.
Right.
So when God says you're going to have a son, and then he waits 20 some odd years, 24 years or whatever it is, okay. I mean that, but I can even in my own life and dreams or whatever, I can say, oh, here's a thing that would be good to do, or maybe I feel called to do that, and it sometimes takes people a long time. I remember at seminary, there were kind of two different cohorts at seminary back in the day. There was me, the pipeliners, right? So we had never worked a real job, a career job. And then there were the second career people, the people in their 40s and 50s, right?
Me, yes.
I don't know if you were that old, though.
I wasn't that old, though.
But you had worked at Arthur Andersen,
right.
And so, and when you heard their call story, most of the people who had come in their second career, who had lived a first career to whatever age, described a moment kind of before when they felt something. Not everyone, but some of them said, oh yeah, back in the day, God put this on my heart, but I kind of, family and career got in the way, and time kind of clicked along, and finally something happened that realigned them with that vision that had been put in their heart.
Which is, similar, kind of my story.
A decade
right.
earlier.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So I think I don't think this is unique. I think this is actually kind of...
And I think God, at the end
works.
of the day, I bet if you go back and listen to those stories, not just about whether you're going to be a priest, but for a lot of us in different realms of our lives, when we make changes, a lot of times that our recognition comes not in an easy time, but usually in a difficult time.
Right.
When you think like, oh, this is really bad, I can't do this, or whatever it is whether what happens, it seems like God sometimes does a lot of good work when we think all is lost.
Right.
Do you know?
We tend to pay attention differently.
Yeah, and I think we're open
lost.
to transformation in those moments, in a way.
Yes.
The guard is down, if you will. We're not laughing anymore in some ways. So don't give up on your bad, like when times are tough.
Right. That's
just
actually a
be
moment.
aware.
Right. God might be acting quite
Absolutely.
Quite proactively, or
for the good for you.
Yeah.
Right? For your transformation. In a way that might align actually to your heart's desire, in ways that you wouldn't think possible in sort of normal run of life. Anyways.
And if you find yourself kind of laughing a little bit internally, you've got good company.
Absolutely. And unrecognizing these stories.
The mother of Israel was doing the same thing. So.
Yeah.
All right. Romans 5. Well, we've got Psalm 116. I'll let you take a look at that on your own. And then Romans 5, 1 through 8. This is 5 through 8, again, as I've said before, I think is the heart of Romans. So we're just, if you start reading Romans, I would skip 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I would start with 5, and then I would go back, right? But 5, since we are justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ, through whom we have obtained access to this grace. This is again Paul starting to make an argument that is a little bit more. This is a sustained argument. And by that I mean it's hard to kind of, people have tried to, with what we call proof text, different sentences in this. And I think to do that is actually to really not get Paul right. So I would recommend, if you're going to read it, if you're going to spend some time with it, then read it and spend some time with it. I would not just go and say, oh, we're justified by faith, and check that off the list. So, and it's about how Jesus' love for us and the grace that God has for us comes to us even though we are not kind of the righteous person that we could be. But I like this line too, that we boast in our sufferings, and this is Paul's logic kind of unfolding. We boast in our sufferings, talking about difficult times, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope, and hope does not disappoint because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit that has been given to us.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're suffering, know that Paul has a logic for you, that suffering is not an end in itself, but actually through God's grace kind of becomes hope at the end of the day.
Yeah, which is similar to what we were just kind of talking about, right, in a way. That's a pretty powerful verse if you want to memorize something.
If you want to,
I think that's a take home kind of thing that is pretty grace filled and positive. Justification is one of those words that it's a metaphor, right? It's a legal metaphor, a law court metaphor for forgiveness. And I love it because it's like you're guilty and you go before a judge, and the judge, you're waiting almost to get the sentence for what you did. And it could be something like I always in my head, and I think I've talked about this before. It could be like speeding. You're speeding down 95, you're going 100 miles an hour, you finally got caught, you get pulled over, it's your third offense, and you know that this is it, like you're never going to be able to drive again. So you're standing in front of the judge, and the judge says, you know what, I'm going to forgive you of those past, and I'm going to keep your license, and basically I trust you. And you walk out of the courtroom and you're like, oh man, I am never going to go over 65 or 70 if for the rest of my life, because I have just been like reprieved of something I know I'm guilty of. That I think that's like a law court metaphor for what justification is.
Right.
That God, and then as a result, you're not afraid to speed because you're going to get into trouble. You would never want to offend the judge who trusted you to not speed again. So you think to yourself every time that foot is going down, like, oh man, that judge trusted me, like forgave me. I'm not gonna betray that trust.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Not because I'm afraid the judge is gonna get me, but because I'm afraid I'm actually gonna offend the judge. And I think that's such the way forgiveness is with God.
Right. Right.
That sense of like, man, oh man, I do not deserve this by any means. By any way intellectually that I look at it, I do not deserve to be forgiven. But there's this judge. And I think that's one of the metaphors kind of that Paul uses in trying to understand how the cross saves us.
Right.
So I think I love the word justification.
Good.
Which is forgiveness, It's like, I think. But maybe I'm wrong. I mean, there's probably a theologian who's like, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard, but
I think you've got good company with that. It's also nice that here at Good Shepherd we have two priests, and one gets to have a very traditional, almost Lutheran opinion about it, and then the other gets to have a little bit of a wackadoodle opinion, and that would be me, because I think yours is a better. Well, I think you've got good company in the history of theology with that image. I don't prefer that image though. I don't like the judge at the. So I'm going to give you my image because we've got a minute.
That's good.
We got a minute.
Yeah, it's fun.
I see justification tied in with the judgment. So for me, it's about Christ coming and kind of throwing his arm around your shoulder and going back through time.
Okay. I like that.
To look at, no, I don't think it's, I mean, I think it's different in nuance, but not significantly different because the forgiveness is still there. But it's Jesus kind of throwing his arm around your shoulder and going, let's just walk back through a couple moments, here. And like, you kind of look at yourself now from the third person doing the speed, in their case, the speeding or whatever it is. And kind of, Jesus is watching you with you and you're kind of wincing because you're like, I don't really want to look at this. Like this moment was not a great moment for me. And you can kind of feel that when you're because of who you're with, because you're with Jesus. Like there's, come on, like, why don't you avert your eyes? Like, let's not. And Jesus is like, no, like let's just let this play out. And then he looks at you and he's like, you know what? But I love you anyway.
Yeah.
Like I still love you, even though that thing happened, that thing you did, or that thing you didn't do that you should have done. But he never leaves your side. Like Jesus is always there with you in those kind of moments where we actually end up judging ourselves harsher than anyone else. And that awareness, that truth comes because of Jesus's proximity to us, because of his closeness to us.
Yes.
And then the forgiveness, that love is what absolves us. And then we kind of, collapse into his arms, so to speak, metaphorically, if you want to run it that far.
Yeah.
But so for me, it's a small change in the imagery. And the only reason I go away from the judgment bench is because it makes God, I think it overemphasizes the transcendence of God, the kind of distance of God as the judge.
It definitely places God up there somewhere.
Up there,
we're like down here.
And we're down here, and God's like putting his finger down on you.
But remember, they're metaphors, right?
They're metaphors.
There's other metaphors. Redemption's another metaphor, right?
Yes.
And so there's no one way to describe what the cross does.
Right.
There's not. And even Paul in his writing is like grasping at different ways of trying to explain how this is happening.
Right.
So that gives us freedom then to embrace God's love, God's grace in as particular way as you are, as I am, right? In moments of your life that might change, or one might
you might need a different
more
you need a different
one way
metaphor
than the other way, right?
I'm not saying your metaphor is wrong.
I'm saying
here's a different way of looking
to
at
all
it.
of us that there's that how you understand God's forgiveness for you and how the cross works is as rich and as vast as God's love is for you.
Right.
It's not just one way or the other.
Right.
It's both.
It's both.
And
it is both.
Because at the end of the day, it's so overwhelming that even Paul, we're all kind of grasping at how do I explain this?
Yes.
How do I make this real for people?
Yeah. We're taking a spiritual phenomenon and trying to put it into words.
I'm just saying that justification is more of a law court metaphor.
Yes.
If you look at the Greek and you look at what the word, how it's used.
Right.
Anyways.
And again, that's why I think you have more.
No, but I love that. I mean, I love that idea, and I think it's true. Like the great judgment seat of Christ is not. I've always kind of said that is not us sitting there, like and
cowering,
point all the bad things you did. But it is that sense. So let's take a look at your life.
Let's just take a walk down memory lane.
Sit here with me, because it could also be that God, that review of your life looks at all those places you were a bit errant. Right. But it could also be all of these places where you were not.
Right.
And you've completely overlooked that, never thought about all that you did that was of love.
Right.
But God does and sees it,
Right.
So maybe we see both of them.
There's moments of grace either way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good.
It's great.
All right, well, we've run out of time. We've got people gathering at the door. So thank you for a rich conversation, as always. And thank you for joining us if you've made it this far. We look forward to seeing you on Sunday, either in person or through the live stream. And now we hope you feel a little more prepared to hear these words. We'll see you soon.